If you've been watching my videos for a while, you might remember me doing some videos about another song of mine called Loosen the Grip, where I was talking about its main riff, but then I said something alike to stay tuned for more, because there's a little bit of an Easter egg when it comes to this riff and when it comes to another song. And we're finally talking about it because we're talking about the main riff of my latest release song, Parachute, which if you haven't, you can and should go check out anywhere you listen to your music at. I think I figured out the main riff for both songs around the same time years and years ago, and I don't remember which one I figured out first, but it probably influenced the other one, because they're played in the same position, they have the same vibe, and originally they started up in the same tempo. Again, I suggest you go check out the videos about Loosen the Grip, because that song was very much about me slowing up a little bit and not playing my riffs as fast. And yeah, while Parachute is in A minor and Loosen the Grip is in G minor, if I played them both in the same key and I didn't tell you which one belonged to which song, you would probably think that they're just part of the same riff. But honestly, I think that's kind of fun. And because they have a similar vibe and they move through similar chords, I remember at the time thinking that they would probably be in the same song. But then I noticed that they were both pretty strong sounding. Sometimes I do figure out riffs that are cool and work well with each other, but one usually has a more definite vibe of being like the chorus or main riff, while the other one has more verse or breakdown vibes. But in this case, they both kind of felt like they should probably just be main riffs. So why not have them both be main riffs? Just the main riff of their own song. It doesn't really happen too often that I have riffs that work well in the same vibe, but then I turn them into different songs. But in the case of these two songs in specific, I actually think that I probably did the better choice here. Looking back on it now, the whole song Loosen the Grip actually ended up having a very different vibe than Parachute ended up having. I guess you can say it's two songs for the price of one, or how maybe I'm just milking all my riffs and ideas, but even if so, I think the main result actually ended up turning out super cool. And since I'm assuming you've checked out the song Loosen the Grip before, here's how the riff of Parachute ended up turning out, but like how I usually say in these sorts of things, it makes way more sense in the context of the whole song, because you really get to hear and feel the themes develop and lock into each other. Do you have a lot of riffs that ended up being part of the same song, but then you separated them into making different songs out of them? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more, because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too, so perhaps even share them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest release song, Parachute, anywhere you listen to your music at, and I guess probably Loosen the Grip as well. And I'm going to once again take the opportunity to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. With that being said, I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers! You should never undervalue the power of a good riff. Sure, most of the times it's either one of those situations where you put a bunch of notes together and they just happen to sound right, or they happen to feel right and just be exactly whatever you're looking for the song that you're doing. But a good riff can be so much more than that. It might just be the thing that you built your whole song around and have all the other riffs and licks kind of bring forward that vibe, but not just be repetitions over repetitions. Like in the case of my latest release song, Parachute, which if you haven't, you can and should go check out anywhere you listen to your music at. I figured out the verse riff of that song honestly just by messing around with this position on the 7th fret of the 4th string that brings you an A power chord along with the A string, and while adding some open strings and other bass notes, I ended up figuring out It's a really straightforward chord progression. We're going with A minor, C, F, and G, and while working on different variants of the riff, I ended up playing the exact same thing, but instead of arpeggiating every chord, I kind of played it a little bit harder and with more subdivisions, almost in between a riff and just playing power chords like a more punk rockish way, that ended up being played like this. While figuring out that more aggressive version of the riff and also trying to look at different chord inversions, I ended up playing something like this, which, surprise surprise, ended up inspiring what later became the more breakdown-ish section of the song. And while piecing together all the different riffs and parts of the song, I noticed that in my first sketch of the song, I only really played that verse riff once. Even though it then influenced other riffs of the song, so there was kind of some cohesion in there, I kind of felt like the original version of the riff didn't really shine as much as it could, so I ended up grabbing that riff, playing it alongside other riffs of the song. Like there's this section where I'm just messing with these sus2 chords. They would probably work together nicely in a harmonic way, and the different rhythms going on at the same time would actually give it a sort of polyrhythmical, more interesting vibe. And I actually even played it another time in the song, but I'll leave that one for you to figure out when you hear it in the context of the whole song. Because like how I usually say with these sorts of things, all of this makes way more sense while in the context of listening to the whole song, where you can actually hear those themes develop and blend into each other nicely, rather than in separate chunks like this. What are some of the ways that you take a good riff and actually have different things spawn from it? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more, because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too, so perhaps even share them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest released song, Parachute, anywhere you listen to your music at, and I want to once again take the time to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. With that being said, I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers! Is it just me, or do you sometimes figure out a riff that is just the riff? Well, I guess I should explain what I mean by the riff. I mean that riff that you find yourself playing like all the time. Perhaps you're explaining something to a student, or you're just jamming, or even improvising in the context of another song, and that one riff, or lick, or melody just ends up sneaking itself into pretty much everything you play. I've certainly had a bunch of those happening over the years, and they usually stop being the riff once I figure out how to use them within the context of the song, and I guess it happened for the most part with this one too, but even nowadays I will often find myself playing within like the minor pentatonic position and playing this riff. Which, by the way, was the main riff of my latest released song, Parachute, which you can and should go check out anywhere you listen to your music at. And looking into it, it's not really a complicated riff. It's mostly played in the first box position of the minor pentatonic scale, and it's even in A minor, which I don't usually play in A minor too much, but I think this riff just sounded kind of cool in A minor. And it's not really a hard riff, it's just moving over a bunch of chords with some melody bits in between, and those chords are pretty easy too. We're starting out with A minor, and then F major 7, but you can just think of it as F, and finishes with this, that you can look at as like a D sus4. I actually think of it more as like a G sus2, because that G then ends up resolving us back to A minor. And we can just loop the whole riff over and over again. And I don't know, maybe because, like I said, it's played in a minor pentatonic box position shape, it's easy to be playing even in other keys, like, I don't know, F minor. And let's be honest, I'm a fan of epic music and epic riffs, so it's normal that I would gravitate more towards riffs like this than, I don't know, like the Count's Ballad or the Bounce. But even then, maybe it was just a cool riff that I ended up gravitating towards to and played around because it's just a cool riff. Though there is another riff that shows up in the song that, in all fairness, is just way more simple and kind of more like a melody that I play in different sections of the song, and I actually ended up figuring out in the context of just improvising and jamming around way before I did Parachute the song. And nowadays, while I'm just improvising with my solos and figuring out stuff while I'm just jamming, it will find itself a way to creep in. And then, like with the main riff of Parachute, where nowadays I will find myself very occasionally just jamming over something and playing that riff, and it just locks into my brain as like, oh, there's the Parachute riff. With this second one, even when I listen to Parachute the song, it just reminds me of like, oh, it's that cool lick that I do sometimes. And when I'm just jamming around and it creeps itself back in, I again don't think of it as, oh, that's that lick from Parachute. I just think of it as an old friend who then shows up out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, there you are. Though in the song Parachute, it ended up sounding like this, but like how I usually mention with these sorts of things, it makes way more sense in the context of the whole song, because you really get to listen to and really feel all the themes lock in together and make it sound like a very cohesive and narrative song. Do you also have these riffs that will find themselves a way to lock into your playing, whether you then end up finding them at home or not? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more, because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too, so perhaps even consider sharing them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest release song, Parachute, anywhere you listen to your music at, and I want to once again take the time to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. With that being said, I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers! When I first started playing the guitar, I was very conflicted about the pickup selector. On one hand, if you have a guitar with multiple pickup positions and you get access to different sounds very easily, then you should use those sounds to whatever fits the vibe of the song better. If you're looking for something more bassy or more creamy, use the neck pickup position. If you're looking for something more quacky, then maybe you go for one of the more middle positions. But I would also see a bunch of guitar players that would go into those more shreddy lead parts and would just immediately switch to the neck position, and sometimes that bassier sound would actually hide a little bit of your mistakes and unpolished note playing, especially when it came to that faster legato or even sweep/economy picking style of playing. And so, because of that, and also the fact that I was influenced by guitar players like Marty Friedman and Phil X, who played with guitars with mostly just a bridge pickup and with less gain than most people would actually use, that for the most part would actually give you a way more revealing sound that you couldn't just hack through as much. You'd really have to get your chops together. I ended up gravitating more towards just playing all my solos with the bridge position and really get that more clear and defined sound. But as time went on, I then noticed that if you were playing your solos with high gain and and with the neck position on, even if it had the ability to kind of hide your mistakes a little bit more, you could still get a very clear and defined sound when you actually played everything properly and cleanly. You would just be getting, by consequence, a richer, bassier, and deeper sound. So, surprise, surprise, work with the pickup position that actually gives you the sound that you're looking for, or perhaps the sound that the song you're playing on actually is calling for. But while working on the songs that then turned out to be Volume 3 of Red Baker demos, I noticed that even though I would sometimes use the neck pickup on solos, I didn't really do it that often, and I thought it would be time to at least experiment with that sort of a sound, especially in the context of a more shreddy solo. But I didn't just pick a random song and then decided to play with the neck pickup on it. I waited until I was recording a song and listened back to it and thought, hey, this one is actually calling for that neck pickup solo. And it didn't really happen until I reached my song Parachute, which if you haven't, you can and should go check out anywhere to listen to your music at. I think the song in general has a little bit of a more epic vibe, but there are some darker sections in it, including this section that is going over these darker chords that aren't even in the same key, but you're able to move between them with some interesting voice leading. We're talking about chords like A minor, F minor, G minor, and E flat minor. We then go over the whole chord progression, but we substitute the last chord, that E flat minor, for a G sharp major sharp 11. And for the most part, the solos on my songs are mostly improvised, like I sometimes do a mistake and I stop the recording, and I go back to the point where it was sounding cool before I made that mistake, and keep playing from there on out. So I usually try to have some themes and vibes in mind, but I don't really compose my solos. And with this song, it wasn't really any different, other than the fact that I switched up to the neck position and just let that sound inspire me into doing something different than what I usually do. And I think it actually ended up sounding pretty cool, but let me know what you think. I've asked this before in another video when it came to riffs, but when it comes to solos, are you more of a bridge pickup guitar player or a neck pickup guitar player? Or do you switch between them, and perhaps even use positions like the middle position? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more, because I'm releasing new songs every week, and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too, so perhaps even share it with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest released song, Parachute, anywhere you listen to your music at, and I'm going to once again take the time to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. With that being said, I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers! When I was first getting into songwriting, one thing that I thought was kind of lame was to do key changes or key modulations. I don't really know why. Most of the songs that I actually grew up listening to and were really influential to me when I look back at them either had a bunch of key changes or had a key change in like the part of the song that would have the most amount of energy and the most amount of vibes. And honestly, I think there's something to be said to just doing key changes like that, where you take a riff that is in a specific key and you play it the whole way through, and when you're going to loop it around and play it back up again from the start, maybe you move to a different key. On the compositional side of things, it's kind of lame, but at least in my opinion, it for sure has a very interesting sound. I've done it in other songs, like in the last chorus of I'll Meet You at the Top of the World, but I also like to take a riff that you're accustomed to inside of a song and then change its key in a way that you probably wouldn't expect. Like in the case of my latest released song, Parachute, which if you haven't, you can ensure to go check out anywhere you listen to your music at. The song's main riff goes over the chords A minor, F, D, and then after a while it goes to G. It takes place in the key of A minor, so that G ends up being the chord with dominant function that then ends up giving you the tension to resolve back to A minor. And in the last chorus of the song, I play the main riff in a more chill way before I actually explode into that actual heavy section that again uses that same riff. And I thought doing a key change to that main riff would be a cool way to give it some more energy and make it pop out even more. I thought I could maybe just do a whole step up, so since we were in A minor, we could go to B minor. It wouldn't be a big deal to keep doing the riff, and instead of resolving to A minor, we could do a surprise A major and resolve to the B minor. And even though it would sound cool, it just wasn't giving me the vibe that I was looking for, so I thought to myself, what about that G major chord? It already has a dominant function, so what if instead of me doing an actual G major chord, I maybe do a G7, which has even more dominant vibe, and I can resolve that G into a C minor. I would then not really need to add any extra chords, I could just stay on that G, and while the listener would probably expect me to resolve back to the A minor, I would actually resolve to C minor and have the riff become a little bit higher in pitch and have a very different vibe than what the A minor does. In fact, here's how it ended up sounding, but like how I usually mention with these sorts of things, it makes way more sense in the context of the whole song so that you can actually hear and feel the themes develop and lock into each other. But tell me about you and your modulations / key changes. Are you one of those composers that just likes to add another key change just straight up in there with no real preparation? Or do you prefer to set up your key changes a little bit more eloquently? Like I said, there are not really any right choices, just a matter of preference. So yeah, let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too. So perhaps even share them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest released song, Parachute, anywhere you listen to your music at, and I'm going to once again take the time to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. With that being said, I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers! I've released this song called Parachute, which if you haven't, you can ensure to go check out anywhere to listen to your music at, and along with it, I've released a bunch of videos, but I've also released a full playthrough / music video for the whole song, which you can go check out on my YouTube channel. I want to take the opportunity to thank you guys so much for all the support in these songs and videos. I can only really thank you guys so much, but it really means a lot and it really makes a difference. If you've enjoyed any of the videos, I'm sure you'll like this one too, so perhaps even share them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In fact, if you've stayed this far, I'm sure you've seen this guitar all the time, but just as a surprise / teaser, we're actually going to be talking about this guitar right here very soon, so keep that in mind, and while you're at it, perhaps even leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow, and until we see each other in another video, cheers!